Get full episodes of The Damage Report as a podcast on iTunes and Android, and you can watch the live show every weekday on YouTube TV. A series of suspicious packages has been sent to literally every Democrat and member of the media in the country, effectively. I say that just in case you watch this later on the day, because we're finding out about new bombs coming out pretty much every 5 to 10 minutes at this point. On yesterday's show, we told you about George Soros, the occasional Democratic donor and locus point of every conspiracy theory on the right that exists. But today, we have the Clintons, Barack Obama, as well. So they're targeting obviously very high profile Democratic politicians, but not just that, the media as well. So both CNN and it is believed as well the San Diego Union Tribune have both had suspicious packages sent to them. So obviously CNN, just about as high profile as media gets in this country, they have had to evacuate their building and they're currently doing their live reporting from the street. That is the state that we're in. We're gonna be talking about all this, breaking down the individuals, but I just wanna give you full updates. In addition to that, we later found out Debbie Wasserman Schultz, former head of the DNC, she was the target of a bomb. And as well, Eric Holder has received a suspicious package. So some very high profile people continually in the news, some like Debbie Wasserman Schultz hasn't really been talked about in more than a year really, but still was a target of a bomb. So as you've been seeing this news roll in, JR, what do you think?
Well, actually, no, you mentioned the Eric Holder part, and then as I was driving, I also heard about Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and I was thinking how this is just going to continue to extend because it seemed like a broad, I guess, net of you cast your net wide. You know, you throw all these different suspicious and possibly dangerous packages to all these folks to make a statement. So a lot of the details that came in were talking about how it was sent through the Postal Service. There was a return address on it. They were crudely packaged. So all these things that would raise a lot of red flags. And if you actually want something to come and harm someone, you probably want to do it a lot more discreetly, right? So it seemed that they wanted these to be found. It seemed they wanted these to make news. It seemed they wanted these to be on the alert of everyone. So that everyone goes, hey, you just might get something too. It's the epitome of terrorism, you know, without having to say, well, you know, I didn't hurt anybody. You know, so this was my perception. I was like, so they're out to try and scare folks. They want people to not be able to continue to do their job or to be worried about the things they say without having to take on the consequence of actually putting together something like this. I mean, you know that without mentioning the Postal Service, they have the most secure way of handling packages and scanning and making sure something is not happening. It was pretty obvious these weren't going to make it through that system.
Yeah, although we should note that as in the case with the Soros bombing, I believe another one was confirmed that it did actually include explosive materials. So these are not just things that are meant to look like bombs. So far, every one that we have confirmation on was actually an explosive that could well have killed either the target or someone living at the target's home or postal workers. So although, and we're gonna get into it in a second, there's all these right-wing conspiracy theories about that this is a false flag.
Of course it is.
People were trying to kill other people. Our country has been the target of multiple acts of domestic terrorism. And while the White House has put out a statement that I'll read in just a second from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Donald Trump, the president of our nation, so far, his only statements have been to retweet the vice president and say, I agree wholeheartedly. Across the country, many different locations have been the targets of attempted acts of terrorism. And the president can barely take himself away from watching Fox News to put out a 4 or 5 word tweet. That is what we're getting so far. Now, supposedly later on today, he is going to say something. I'm going to make a prediction and I hope that I'm wrong. I think he is going to advance his narrative of left-wing violence. And he is going to find some way to do that, even though all of the targets of these attempted acts of terrorism have been Democratic politicians and members of the media that have been attacked on the right as if they are a part of the left.
Well, when it's something that's as obvious as, potentially obvious as this, as the means and the nature of what they're trying to do, this is when he'll sit back and be quiet and wait for some kind of caveat to come through so he can say, hey, you know what? This, again, we've already heard the false flag accusations and this is just probably a lib trying to make us look bad. So of course he's sending to all of these, you know, Democratic, well-known Democratic former candidates and presidents and all that, right? So he's probably waiting for some kind of avenue so he can go down that road, which is why from the beginning you can't say something like, hey, you know what, this is despicable, we need to stop this. Hey, the people I've been riling up need to stop taking me I guess literally, and the things that I say literally you should do, and calling your opposition the mob and dangerous.
Yeah.
And an opposition to the country, as you talk about the media. They're the enemy of the people, all those things. So you have to take responsibility, which is something he will never do. So he's waiting for some way to push this kind of
Well, I think he will either do that, or he will simply say violence from all sides is wrong. And by the way, they spit in Mitch McConnell's clam chowder or whatever. He is going to attempt to both sides it, what about it, like everyone does these days. Every intellectually incapacitated person who has a platform is going to be attempting to do that here. And so don't expect any strong response against this. Thankfully, the FBI will investigate it, I'm sure. Apparently, the packages are all very similar in the way that they've been constructed. By the way, I just confirmed it was the CNN bomb that was an actual explosive device. So it was not just a look-alike or something like that. They were attempting to blow up a portion of CNN. So they'll be looking into it. Apparently, they all have a return address belonging to a prominent Democratic official that NBC News is not reporting yet. They're not naming that person, although I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that that person didn't send the bombs. But this is a wave of acts of domestic terrorism. And by the way, not just against random people. Now, yes, I agree, they want to get publicity for this, but they are targeting the targets of right-wing conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
Like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and George Soros and fake news CNN and even Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who Donald Trump loved to talk about during the last primary. Is it any wonder that these are the people that whoever it is, whoever it turns out it was attempting to kill this time?
And Eric Holder, after that, was coming out at that speech he was making about when they go low, and all the remember the whole thing, we go low, we kick them, right? And then there was also the CNN packaging apparently was addressed. This is what I heard is also, I didn't read this specifically, was apparently addressed to John Brennan, who sometimes appears on CNN. And we all remember the scuffle between John Brennan and the president with him revoking his security clearance as former agent. So it's, again, if you cross the president, then his crazy supporters will find a way to somehow voice their support for him in violent ways, because that's the language he speaks to them.
Yeah, and as we said, they are all already coming out, the right wingers, the same ones who are telling you all of these people are dangerous, they're criminals, they should be locked up, they need to be taken out. Oh, totally not physically, I totally don't mean physically, wink, wink, they're the worst, they're the devil. Now they've been targeted, and the same voices are coming out and providing cover for these domestic terrorists. Rush Limbaugh said, it's happening in October, there's a reason for this. Yeah, there's a reason for this, because they wanted to murder Democratic politicians and members of the media. That is why they did it. Others are saying, oh, come on, how are they targeting multiple people at the same time? That's a good point. I can't think of any recent high-profile examples of terrorists attacking multiple sites in the US on the same day. That's not a tough one. No, and God only knows what Fox News will be saying. So far, Fox News attempts to be, they're taking it easy because they're obviously worried as well. They're members of the media. But God only knows what Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson will be saying later on today. Our best hope is that they will just defend the domestic terrorist and say that it's probably a left-winger doing this, if not actually attempting to name names. Maybe George Soros sent it to himself. He's got the money, after all. That's the state of the US today. We're gonna be tracking this during the live show. We'll see if any more of these packages have been sent. By the way, one important note is that the San Diego Tribune, the Union Tribune, it is possible that they were the target. However, according to an employee at that particular newspaper, that same building is also the location of one of the offices of Kamala Harris. And so it is not impossible that Kamala Harris was the actual attempted target of that bomb. We don't know for sure yet. We'll see as more information comes in. Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.